security do you have moderate security controls? Do you have basic security controls, or you're not even confident in your security at all? So this would actually help us tailor going forward what we would actually focus on in this webinar because a lot of organizations most times they have quite well, I won't say they do not have anything, but they have just the basic, right? So maybe we have a VPN for users that want to connect to a certain workload. They have that VPN access that they can actually, or we have that tunnel access. You're connecting over secure encrypted channels. Or some actually even go ahead and say, listen, we have maybe IAM policies in place, conditional access policies in place and some would say, oh, we are very mature. We've been running a hybrid workspace or a remote workspace for, 10 years now. We've actually had all these security controls in place. And some will say, I mean, all we are concerned about is deployment, right? We just want to move fast. We want to deploy quickly. We want to, you know, we don't really care about security. All we care about is our products are actually shipped, our users are actually carrying out their job, and then everything is working fine. So basically, just have a quick poll to actually see what we actually think about the security posture of our organization. Mm. Okay. I think it's quite still moving between people are very satisfied, they have very good security posture and somewhat satisfied. So a lot of over 50% are saying, oh, we're somewhat satisfied with our security posture. We have basic you know controls in place that would actually help us to prevent against the threats and then the common challenges that I've actually identified for remote or workload security. A couple of people are saying, hey, listen, we're very satisfied with what we currently have and all that, but let's just move ahead. So if you're not satisfied, or if even if you're satisfied and you feel like you have some sort of security, a resilient security posture, basically one thing that you need to know is implementation of the zero trust. So there's this saying that they always say in cybersecurity, never trust, always verify, right? So basically every user, every device, every connection is treated as untrusted until proven otherwise. And that is basically the whole concept of zero trust. So when we're actually building resilient security architectures, mostly for remote workforce, the best thing is you would never trust, you would always verify. So give you an example. Um, I'm logging into my um what's it called? I'm logging into my system. I want to access some sort of cloud workload, right? I want to access maybe give an EC2 instance, for example. And then I have my IP address, maybe my DevOps guy probably giving me some sort of whitelisting. Yes, whitelisting is my public IP address. I can actually connect to that remote workload. The fact that I can actually connect to, I'm giving that permission to connect. Maybe I can SSH. My traffic is not dropped at the perimeter of my cloud instance. Doesn't mean once any device that has his IP address whitelisted can actually have access to that workload. Even if the device is fine, the network is fine, what other verification are you carrying out? Are you just stopping at, oh, we're just gonna ensure that, oh, once the network is fine, the person has access to all of the environment. And that's where the zero trust architecture comes in. So unlike the normal VPN, which I'm gonna maybe give you an example about, unlike normal VPN where, once you have your VPN credentials and you log in and then you have access to the network, you can actually access all of the entire network infrastructure. You can actually access all of the cloud workload. You can actually access all of the on-premise environment. Zero trust doesn't work like that, right? So even if you have your password, even if you have your network permission to connect, what other identification method do you have, right? MFA should be like everywhere. You shouldn't have a situation by you've connected to an instance, you don't need to, because usually your password can be your password can get compromised, right? So somebody else can have your password, somebody else can actually like I mentioned, you go and log in your friend's system, you save the password. My friend can say, hey, listen, I want to actually check what this person does at his workplace. I mean, let me just even log in. Or maybe it doesn't even happens a lot among me. It doesn't even know what exactly you people do at your organization. I say, look, you know what? Let me even log in into his email and then see what he does. And then he logs in. He has access to sensitive data. He has access to sensitive and confidential information that he shouldn't even have access to. Another thing that Zero Trust does is the device trust, right? So basically, if you're trying to connect a with a particular workload you're trying to access, it could even be a cloud workload, basically. What exactly is your device posture? Is your device secure? I mean, at all times, it continues checking for your device posture, basically. Are you compliant? Are there things you need to do? Um, you know, basically, if you're compliant, fine and good, you get access. If you're not compliant, you get quarantined. You don't even get access at all, right? There's also another thing which is a very common concept in cybersecurity, which is called the principle of least privilege. So, let me use an example. Ade and Bayo both work in Eccentric, right? And Ade is a developer. Bayo is a database administrator, right? Both of them are working on the same product, but both of them do not require the same security privileges, right? The developer person probably just needs access to integrate his code into the database, right? To maybe that's just what it is. The application that he has actually carried out or developed will probably go ahead and update the database. The application will probably go ahead and write a few things to the database, but it doesn't require that access to maybe even log into the database instance to see what exactly is going on. The database administrator, on the other hand, would require that to carry out his activity. But because of maybe you're the security person, you're trying to set up credential access, and you say, you know what, Ade and Bayo, you guys are working on the same project. I'm just going to give you both administrator privileges on the database. That's literally wrong, right? So basically, minimum requirements are to be granted to each person based on their job roles. And there's also something else we're actually going to look at, which is the just-in-time access, which means, I mean, Bayo is the database administrator, but it does not need to have read or write access on every database at every point in time, right? You can actually implement just-in-time access. Just-in-time access in the other way helps with like, oh, I mean, I need a admin access on this. I'm going to request for it, and then I'll get granted for just the time I did it. Now we can actually implement all of this zero trust architecture, but if we do not continuously monitor, I mean, it's just we're having all these security controls, we're having all these security applications installed, but we have not properly monitored that infrastructure or that situation. That's where continuous monitoring comes in, right? So would actually log everything that happens, would actually check in real time. This is not some sort of something that happened yesterday, I'm going to investigate it tomorrow. As every activity is happening, you are continuously monitoring, you are continuously checking for anomalies. Okay, so what are these technology controls that we can actually use, right? So we've actually seen this zero trust, how we can actually leverage it. But what are the actual security controls that we can actually, and this is a very important part because it actually shapes our threat, our roadmap. So as an organization, are you looking at, oh, do I have these security controls? If I do not have it, what are my plan in implementing these security controls in my environment? So we've actually noticed that 68% of attacks, they target unmanaged endpoints. Essentially, we actually have an incident response team that we actually go in, we get called to carry out incident response activity. And then we discover that a lot of times an organization would have, let's say, 120 what's it called? 120 maybe workloads or 120 users, and then half of those workloads, half of those maybe servers, half of those endpoints are currently unmanaged. So nobody cares about the security on those systems. Nobody is monitoring those systems. As long as we have quite maybe a number of 20, 50, we can actually, um, focus on those ones, and whatever happens on the other ones, it's none of our business. And that's where breach starts from, right? Breach, a lot of times we've actually noticed that breaches start from unmanaged devices, right? Unmanaged endpoints, devices that do not have any sort of um, security on them. So that's why it's actually expedient to deploy an EDR or an XDR on these endpoints, right? This actually helps you protect against malware, protects against things like ransomware attacks as well. Um, that can actually come up in your environment. So this will actually help you a lot in that aspect. Before I even talk about the other one, which is the mobile device management, I want to paint a scenario which a lot of us have been facing. So a certain person joins an organization. Say, for example, the company is headquarters in Lagos, right? And then they work hybrid or they work remotely, they work fully remote, and all of their users are, work from anywhere they want in the country. Some even are allowed to work outside of the country as well. And then the organization has employed me, for example, and they've given me my laptop, so I can be able to log into my workloads and then maybe carry out my activities. Say I'm a developer, or say I, and then or a database administrator. They've given me that access already. They've done one better. They've installed an EDR on my system, so they are sure that, oh, listen, this person cannot, download a malware. All malware gets quarantined, and we get alerted, the security teams get alerted. And then, I mean, I'm doing my job all well and good. I've not actually downloaded any malware. I've not visited any um what's it called malicious websites that would actually make me susceptible to attacks. But then after like a year or two, I decide to leave the organization. Bearing in mind, say at this point in time, I've probably moved to New York or I've moved to the United Kingdom. And then the company is headquartered in Lagos, right? And I'm currently in New York. I've sent in my resignation, probably giving them my 1 month or 2 weeks notice, and say, listen, I'm not going to be working with you guys anymore. And this is my resignation. All right. But sensitive data are currently resided on my hard disk, right? Um, I've downloaded a couple of things, intellectual property, code base, basically everything about the organization. Say, for example, I'm even the key developer. Access control keys, right? Access control keys, SSH credentials. I've all saved them on my notepad. I've all saved them on my system. Emails. Probably Um, I'm using Outlook application. I have email stored on my laptop locally, right? And I've issued a 2 weeks notice to my organization and say, listen, I'm going to be leaving. All right. And then you people say, okay, you know what? Offboarding checklist. We're going to deactivate your email address. We are going to deactivate your access to a lot of things. What about the data that I have resident on my system? Right? Has anybody ever noticed that? I mean, how do we ensure that this person that has this sensitive data doesn't exfiltrate this data, right? Um, I mean, a lot of times, um, this happens and then the person resigns and then he loses access to his email, but then like there's some sensitive data that is already resident on his own laptop. How do they ensure that that person doesn't actually, use it for his own personal use or for something else? And that's the question. And that's where mobile device management comes in. A lot of use cases have actually come up where we have organizations tell us, hey, we need to remotely wipe this person's laptop. This person no longer works with us anymore. Maybe for due to the policy of the organization, after 2 years or 3 years, he's allowed to keep the laptop if he's no longer working with us anymore. But we have sensitive information on it. How do we wipe it? It makes me, I remember a time when one of my friends or colleagues I used to work with this firm, and then the firm shipped his laptop to him when he signed the contract. And the day his contract ended, he just turned on a system and it looked brand new, right? So that's the job of a mobile device management. So basically, mobile device management helps you to have that total control over that system. So wherever that person is, even if, normally if you were in the office and then it's your last day at work, HR tells you drop your system, do sign off on some certain documents. That's your sign off document. But basically, you're working remotely. There's no way you can actually, I mean, send back your even if you have to send back your laptop. I mean, you could just as well copy out your files before your 2 weeks expiration comes in. That's where mobile device management comes in, which is a very powerful tool. And I believe every organization that works remotely or that are considering working remotely should actually have, right? So you can have MDM policies that encrypts the data on the system, remote wipe the capability, and then even if you have BYOD devices, you can actually have MDM policies on those BYOD devices that actually helps you with containerized access as well. Now let's talk about patch management, right? People use their devices, they can actually install any sort of application they need. How do you patch these applications? Because these applications are vulnerable. Attackers look for vulnerabilities in certain applications to get access into your environment. So how basically do you patch these applications to limit the threat landscape? That's where the patch management solution comes in. Automating this patch management and then ensuring that all the applications, all the operating systems are actually up to date. Another thing we can actually look at is um, application control, right? Your users are working remotely, they probably would have one or two other things that they want to use their official laptops to do, which is actually harming to you as a security person. Basically, you don't want to have to deal with, oh, you are installing this, you shouldn't be installing this is not required for your job function, this is required for your job function. What about you just adding said system, right? I'm giving you a system, you are not allowed to install anything apart from this. So a lot of times people will say, oh, we can actually use blacklisting, right? Or blocklisting, right? So you're not allowed to install these malicious applications. But the truth is, how many malicious applications would you know, right? How many malicious applications are you aware of that can actually come up at every point in time? You will say, oh, for example, this organization, we only allow AnyDesk. We don't allow TeamViewer. We don't allow Remote View. We don't allow any of those other applications. There are 1,001 other remote support applications or remote control applications that are available. You do not have access or knowledge of blocking everything. But think of it this way. Imagine you block everything and just allow AnyDesk. Or if it's TeamViewer, your organization, imagine you block everything and just allow TeamViewer. It allows you to approve only a certain set of applications to run and then prevent every other thing from running. So basically, if there's some set of malware or malicious application that is sitting on whichever system that your users are currently using, they won't have that ability to run because you've actually blacklisted all of them. So what are some sort of technology controls that we can actually use to curb a lot of these attacks, mostly in remote environments? Now, the first thing is in a normal environment, or I would say in an on-premise environment, you have a perimeter security. The perimeter security is mostly like, oh, you have your firewall, you have all of that. Right now, the firewall is out of you know, basically out of scope right now because everybody's working at different locations. What you have for you is your identity. So basically, how do you secure your identity? A lot of times, over 80% of breaches we've actually seen involved compromised credentials. So basically, somebody's credentials has been compromised. Maybe he has used same credentials, but he's used the same Active Directory credentials to sign up on some sort of website, same username, same password, right? And then he has now that particular platform has been compromised. They've leaked your organization's credentials. People have taken it and used it to sign in into your maybe your email, your Office 365, your SharePoint, what other activities or what other security solutions you currently use. They won't be able to identify because basically, like I mentioned, everybody uses their own personal internet. So there's a lot of traffic coming in from everywhere. Even in remote environments, you can't really say, oh, where are you working out from? You're working out from Lagos, or you're working out from Abuja, you're working out from Kano, you're working out from maybe Benin Republic, Ghana, Kenya, United Kingdom, everywhere. Everybody can actually log in anywhere because they're working in a remote environment. So how do we protect our identity, which is one of the key things in a remote environment? Number one is centralization of authorization and authentication across all your cloud platforms. Say, for example, you're currently leveraging AWS, you're currently leveraging Microsoft Office 365, you have other cloud platforms that you currently use. Instead of having a user have an account on this cloud platform, this SaaS tool, maybe you're currently using QuickBooks, he has an account on QuickBooks, a username and a password, he goes ahead and has another username and password, or maybe another solution like maybe IBM, whatever solution they're currently using. Let me use finance, for example. There's an application you use for processing payments. There's an application you use for inventory. There's an application you use for maybe business analytics. And he has his accounts on all of those different ones. There's no automated or federated accounts, right? So if, for example, even if the person decides that, oh, I'm leaving this organization today, you might go ahead and disable his email account. I mean, his Office 365, he cannot have access to his email. But you can probably leave out maybe the business analytics software and you do not disable him. You might actually like you can just wake up one morning and say, you know what, let me even test my credentials with the work on this software, and then goes ahead and logs in. But if you have actually federated all or centralized all of those SaaS platforms, you can actually reduce password sprawl, and then you can actually even enable conditional access policies. This is where the um single sign-on comes in. So basically, this person, you can even integrate it with your zero trust as well. So you have all of these cloud platforms already. You have this authenticated portal that, oh, this user has authenticated, he has actually provided 2FA, he's met certain credentials or certain criteria, his system is secure. Now, what applications do I want him to connect to? You can actually have that as well as part of your ZTLA. So basically, identity is a very important aspect as well. So MFA is something that I mean, if you have your users or your and people working remotely and they do not have MFA enabled, I really think you're making a huge mistake because MFA should not be even that's something that is negotiable, right? You should also have phishing resistant MFA as well. So things like, oh, your MFA is, oh, sending an email, right? So if you sign into use a particular platform, the mode of multi-factor authentication is an email is sent to you with a certain code. What if the email is compromised, for example? Also, you need to actually leverage privilege access management, which means all privileged credentials are vaulted. Like I mentioned, just-in-time admin rights. Sessions are recorded. So, for example, this is very important for people that currently use maybe cloud workloads. You have servers, you have database instances that you actually need to connect to, right? Mostly finance institutions, people that actually handle very highly sensitive data. You need to have a privilege access manager. This actually helps you take away that admin credentials or other admin privilege away from your normal users and then ensure that you have technology that actually helps you in all of this. Um, Other things that we actually need to look at is data security and data protection, right? So data classification is very important. And even if this cuts across if you're working hybrid, if you're working on-premise, but mostly if you're working remote, you need to be able to classify your data. This will actually help you when you're trying to create policies, DLP policies in ensuring that sensitive data remains sensitive. So you have classification of data. It could be public, it could be internal, it could be confidential, it could be restricted. But you should also use auto classify. So there's some data classification tools that would help you based on the content of said um, documents, right? Or if it's a document containing PAN data, for example, for financial organizations, you can classify it as public, right? It has to be confidential or restricted, things like that. If a document is not classified, then it can't be shared, basically. Encryption is another thing as well. This would also help you to protect your sensitive data. So imagine a situation whereby I mean, there's a high rate of theft, right? A high rate of theft. Your your employees are working remotely, and then a particular laptop is stolen, right? A the thief or maybe malicious user can just even unscrew the hard drive and then access it. That way, they have access to everything on the system. But if you have encryption in place, that is actually cops as well. There are also a lot of DLP policies that we can actually implement. Things like blocking of sending of sensitive information via email, via web uploads, and all of that. Unapproved channels. So a lot of times we've actually noticed this amongst um, remote workers is maybe, for example, I need to send a document to maybe a Fatima, for example, and then like instead of me going ahead to maybe send the document via Slack or via Teams, which is the approved channel of the organization, I want Fatima to maybe respond to it very quickly. I'm uploading this very sensitive document on WhatsApp. I log into my WhatsApp web, I just quickly attach the document and then send. Basically, I'm literally breaching all forms of confidentiality because that document is secure, is supposed to be sensitive and it's supposed to be shared only via secure channels. Sending sensitive documents via WhatsApp means somebody can pick up Fatima's phone tomorrow and then open our WhatsApp and then obviously has access to all of our secure documents. So basically, there are some key tools that we can actually look at. For example, the data loss prevention, which is one of the key tools that you should actually implement. You should have data classifier. We have a lot of OEMs that we're actually partners with for data loss prevention, for data classifier, and even for data masking as well. So these are solutions that you actually should look into and then try to implement your environment. That would actually boost your security posture, mostly for people working in remote environments, right? Now, network security, I'm just going to run through this very quickly. I think I've mentioned it earlier. Um, Traditional VPN, gives you access into once you have your VPN connection, you have access into all of the infrastructure. ZTNA Secure Edge would actually help you prevent that. So you would only have access to what you are supposed to have access to. There's some sort of level, app level microsegmentation in the sense that, oh, fine, you are authorized, right? We've checked through all of your activities, we've checked through all of your prerequisites and say, hey, listen, this is the person you are, who you say you are, you're connecting from a secure device. But what are you supposed to connect to? Traditional VPN, obviously, you do not have access over the traffic. It's encrypted and it's over broad network access. With the secure edge or the zero trust, you have access into the encrypted traffic at all times, right? Now, we've mentioned all of this, right? All of these separated security solutions. You have your SIM, sorry, you have your EDR, you've implemented your MDM, you've had some sort of data classification, you have DLP in place. Say, for example, you have just a team of 3 people, all right? A security team of 3 people, or a security team of 5 people, and then you have 500 users. You have 700 users working across different places in the country, working across different places in the world. How do you manage, keeping an eye on this solution, keeping an eye on this solution, keeping an eye on, everybody signing in? Um, I mean, it seems like a lot of work, don't you think? Um, how can we ensure that all of these security controls are integrated, right? That's where the security information and event manager comes in, right? So we have the SIM tool, right? So the SIM tool integrates a lot of things. So you have your identity and your security, right? So your identity platforms integrated into the SIM. I mean, right here we have a lot of SIM tools that actually have their own identity integrations using Microsoft 365. Is it Okta you're using? We're partners with top of the line security um tools, right? SIM tools that would help you get that visibility that you want. Partners with Rapid7, partner with Level Blue, partner with Forescout, things like that would give you that information, that correlation that you require. So conditional access triggers are also available in the sense of, oh, you've deployed an identity tool, and they need to set up conditional access triggers. So say, for example, if somebody um, is trying to authenticate and then his MFA, after initializing his MFAs, probably enter the wrong MFA from certain location. You want to get a trigger, you want to get an alert. You can actually implement that as well. You can actually even integrate your privilege access management if you have one into your swap playbooks. So, for example, a particular user is connecting into a particular workload that is not used to. You can actually have those identity security feed into your SIM tool. You can actually create workbooks or playbooks that would actually help you um, detect this faster. Apart from identity security, you have your endpoint security. So you have deployed an EDR, right, into the environment, and then um, it's a standalone EDR, so it has its own dashboard. You don't want to be shuffling from your EDR dashboard or a certain malware has been detected on someone's system. I need to go and investigate. When you can actually just sit and then watch everything back from the same console. You've implemented an MDM solution. There's a compliance issue. A certain device is no longer compliant, right? You don't need to go ahead and then um logging into the MDM solution to check for this. All of these are integrated already into the SIM tool. From the SIM, you can actually even carry out SWA isolation. So basically, a lot of our customers are, and we've actually implemented this for quite a number of our customers already, where they want to carry out um isolation based on the incident that happened from the SIM. So for give you an example, a particular system has been flagged to be communicating to a C2 server. Now, the firewall has reported this, right? The firewall has reported a certain communication from your system to a C2 server, a C2 IP. And then you want to quickly isolate that system, right? You need that quick correlation from that information got it from the firewall. The SIM has picked it up. Is the EDR is integrated already? You've seen the endpoint that is currently connecting. You want to quickly carry out response actions on using leveraging the EDR to isolate from the network so that there's no lateral movement. Quickly integrated into the SIM, that makes it easy for you. You have trade intelligence feeds, right? So you have threat intelligence platforms that you're actually leveraging that you need to get IOCs from. Essentially, we have a threat intelligence team that actually enriches your environment, your SIM environment. We have a team of experts that actually comb the environment, gives you threat intel based on your specific um variable or your specific environment or your specific economy that you're currently striving. So basically, if you're working in financial sector, we have trade intelligence feed tailored directly to financial sector, giving you information about that, IOCs that you need to maybe enrich your SIM, enrich your EDR block list. You need to create firewall denial rules as well. We have trade intel feeds that you can actually plug into. If you have the DLP solution, right? If created DLP policies, you actually need to see who's flagging these policies, who actually is trying to send out sensitive data to maybe unrecognized emails. You need that telemetry. You have all that integrated, which means we shouldn't actually be operating in silos, right? We should have that um, integration, and that's where the SIM comes in. So with the SIM, we can actually even leverage automation as well and active response in the sense that we have REST APIs that can actually integrate to all of your other security tools. You can actually create webhooks in the sense that you can actually even respond to incidents right from your Slack or your Teams channels, right? And then you can actually even create tickets directly. So yes, there's one part of response, right? So you have that security monitoring, but how then do you constantly stay abreast of all these situations, right? Is if you actually monitor 247. And that's what we do here at Sentry. We actually provide you that 247 monitoring over your security environment. That gives you that time to, take days off, go on public holidays, all through the night. You can actually sleep with your eyes closed, knowing that you have security professionals monitoring and responding on your behalf. So, just the very last question before we go. If you could improve on one area of your security, what would that be? So, if you've had all of this thing we've discussed, if there's one particular area that you could actually improve on in your security stack, what would it be? Is it your data security? Is it your endpoint protection? Is it that you need more improvements on your identity security management? You need to implement more IAM controls. You need to implement multi-factor authentication, ensuring that all of your users carry out multi-factor authentication, or maybe even have all of this in place, right? But you need to carry out some sort of monitoring and response. So at this point in time, you have all these security tools, but if something happens in the middle of the night, you'd have to wait till the next day before you come and then you are checking, oh, let me just, and that way you're not being proactive, you're being reactive. If there's a way you need advanced monitoring and response, um, let's just quickly see what the pool says. So at this point in time, most people are actually saying they need more in terms of their data security. That means in terms of maybe DLP policies, in terms of having classifier documents, in the sense that each document is classified based on sensitivity, right? That's also a very important aspect, mostly when you have remote workers, right? So you want to be able to be ensured that sensitive data is not leaked. Sensitive data obviously might actually even being leaked would lead to a lot of reputational damage for the organization. It would lead to lack of trust, basically. Endpoint protection is also another huge part that we need to improve on in terms of a lot of organizations, and we've had this discussion with a lot of organizations whereby we actually maybe carry out a security assessment, which is one of the things we do here to give you that security posture to make you understand where you currently are in terms of security. And then we realize that a lot of people currently use uh endpoint systems or where they don't even have any sort of visibility into that endpoint. They don't have any sort of control into that endpoint, which is actually a very huge risk as well. Identity security, MFA, is also very important. Privilege access management, conditional access policies is also a very important part as well. So yeah, the things that I think we should actually take away if given this the result of these polls, zero trust, very important. I think is one of the key things. Basically, if you're thinking of a resilient remote infrastructure, if you're thinking of a resilient hybrid infrastructure, zero trust is one of the key things. This is very important even across board, right? Are you a small or medium scale business? Are you an enterprise scale business? Zero trust is something that is very important. And then we should look at. So perimeter security, the way we have our um firewalls, the way we have our proxies being set up is basically obsolete in a remote environment. You need to verify, like I mentioned, identity is the new perimeter security, right? IAM is your first investment, right? Ensuring that your security of your credentials, your security of your user accounts is up top notch, right? Every endpoint, right? Every endpoint in your environment should be secure. You should have the EDR, you should have your mobile device management, automatic patching. These are not options. These are not negotiables. These are not things that you say, oh, I mean, we can actually look at it later. You need to have all of this up and running in your environment. So we have top of the yeah, essentially we are partners with top of the line EDRs, top of the line MDM solutions. You talk about CrowdStrike, talk about SentinelOne, you talk about Palo Alto. We actually have great partnerships with these people and we can actually help you achieve that security that you require over your endpoints. Now, here's the part. You can actually have all of this and then you don't have visibility because you literally can't protect what you cannot see. Investment into your SIEM and SOAR would help you close all these visibility gaps. So investing in the SIEM gives you that visibility, right? Gives you that across you want to have telemetry over your environment. You want to have telemetry over your network environment, over your user. You want to be able to orchestrate things, right? You want to be able to tie different events. This would actually even help you in your investigations when necessary. If it's a situation but you have to carry out an investigation. So a SIM is also very important as well. With the SIM comes monitoring, and that's what we actually do here at Essentially. When Media was doing the introduction, she mentioned that we currently have a managed SOC in the sense that we actually monitor your environment on your behalf so you can actually focus on business as usual. If you have a small team, a small security team, or even a small IT team with no security dedicated security team as well. We also have that ability to monitor on your behalf, give you that insight and reports that you require. Also, integration is very important, as well as integration with automation as well. Orchestration is one of the most important things because human beings, the time it takes for a particular attack to happen is keeps becoming shorter. I have a friend who always jokes that um, the way detection has become faster. Attackers have actually even become even way faster in their own activities. And he joked that there'll be a time that attackers will be actually carrying out attacks in negative time. So instead of taking 10 seconds to actually infiltrate the system, they'll be taking it negative seconds to infiltrate the system. So basically, you need orchestration to actually get all of this information and then respond on your behalf. So even before the attacker comes in, you've detected before you don't have to maybe manually go on your own to carry out remediation or disconnect from the network. Orchestration is already in place to ensure that all of this is taken care of, and then you can actually focus on business as usual. So at this point, I think I will just take some questions from the
All
chat.
right.
Couple of
Thank
questions.
you so much, Timmy. Adesiri. That was such an insightful um, section. At least we were able to learn a lot. Speaking from the practical aspects in terms of securing our endpoints down to some of the best technological control we could implement as a person, as an organization, and a process that we need to do on our day-to-day activity. So I'll just check for there's a question that was dropped here. So the question is from Vincent Victor. He asked that is delegating Wi-Fi credential management to an ISP aligned with security best practice, and how is administrative control and accountability maintained? I don't know if
Oh,
you got the question.
yeah, thank you very much, Fatima. I got the question right. So, in a remote environment, right, there's very little control you have over Wi-Fi credential management, right? Because everybody has their own, or would I say, internet provider that they currently use, right? So you can actually delegate um credential management to the ISPs. Everybody manages their own personal credentials, manages access to um who has access to their networks basically, right? That's where we have to actually be proactive and then look at ways where we can actually shore up the risk that um network access is. So if, for example, you have your users connecting to rogue network devices, you have your users even having the normal admin or maybe password to connect to their Wi-Fi's, or even not even having any sort of passwords at all on their Wi-Fi's. How do you ensure that from a endpoint perspective, that endpoint that they're using to connect, how is it secured, right? How are you ensuring that any sort of malicious application is not being run, any sort of malicious traffic is not coming in? That's where things like zero trust network access comes in. That's where things like the XDR comes in, right? The XDR actually not just monitors the applications running, it also monitors the network traffic on each system, right? So the XDR has the telemetry to check for each um, you know, network traffic coming in and going out of the system. And then where any sort of malicious um traffic it is probably going through the internet from the network, from the internal network that the user is currently using, maybe certain user is connected to the same network trying to send malicious traffic to my endpoint. That's where the XDR comes in, checks that traffic, blocks it where necessary to ensure that you get the complete control on the endpoint. Because basically, giving trying to leverage or maybe the ISP security over the network is not enough, right? Okay.
Thank you, Timmy. So we have another question here. So this is stating that concerning visibility, what strategy will you recommend to integrate siloed applications into a central platform? Considering the constraint cost, that is, most of these tools require a higher subscription for integration into a SIM.
Okay. So basically, the SIM, like what we say, is the bedrock of every security environment, right? So integrating these tools to the SIM is quite important. Now, here's the thing: a lot of these security solutions, right? Be your EDR, it could be your MDM. Right now, they've been a lot of integrations available, right? That they can be integrated into the SIM with, what I say, no what's it called? No extra cost, right? So think of it this way. If you're currently using a, give you an example, a CrowdStrike, for example, you're currently using a Sentinel-1, for example, you have asset management solutions, for example, a lot of them have API integrations, right? API integrations into a centralized platform. This is where the security integrations team of security of Accenture comes in, would help you integrate these tools into your centralized dashboard, which is your SIM dashboard, that gives you access to um, get visibility into your environment, right? So the strategy is integrations, basically. Um, Siloed apps would actually give you a lot more work to do. You would have to log into this application, you'd have to log into this application, you'd have to log into this application. And one of the other things that you also need to look out when choosing a tool is the ease of integration, right? So, for example, you're trying to implement a security control environment. Most of the time, what we get from our customers is what part of the use cases is integration into the SIM, which is also something you also need to look at as well. So, if you are procuring a solution, you also look at the integration, ease of integration into the SIM, because that gives you that ability to carry out orchestration, that gives you the ability to get a centralized visibility into your environment. Now, in situation maybe that is not possible, or that is not available, you can then leverage third-party integrators, right? So there are a lot of third-party integrators that you can actually integrate all of these siloed tools into. Then you can then integrate that third-party tool into the SIM. There are a lot of workaround options that you can actually look at in that area.
All right,
Okay.
thank you. I don't know if you have any other questions from the audience. Okay. Okay, I see there's no more question. Okay. Thank you once again for joining today's section. Thank you also, Timmy Adesue. So we also dropped socials on the chat. Kindly also follow us. We hope that this section has been an insightful one. We are also being able to know some of the practical strategies to building a secure architecture within our environment. So, on this note, I would like to say thank you for everyone for participating and joining the section.